Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Soul Rising podcast. I am your host, Amanda McCoy Flanagan. We are all in on love, loss, and connection. We talk the whole gamut of human emotion, how it serves to connect us or disconnect us from ourselves, from others, from God, source, universe, spirit, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. I don't care how you identify with the great spirit in the sky. As long as you feel something, that's what's important. And we try to talk about emotions and how they just relate to relationships, how we relate to ourselves, how we see ourselves, and the importance of feeling them. And grief, we talk a lot about grief on this show, and I've had some of my Get Griefy peeps on here lately, and today I have the woman who started it all, Kera Sanchez. I'm so happy to have you here.
Oh my goodness, what a welcome. Thank you.
So let me tell you guys a little bit about Kera, and then we'll jump into her story and find out what inspired the magazine and the movement. It's really like a movement. And we'll go from there. Kera Sanchez is the founder and editor-in-chief of Get Griefy magazine and the Get Griefy Small Business Collective. Following the unexpected death of her mother in 2022, she channeled her personal experience with loss into meaningful resources for others, navigating grief. She's the author of 2 guided journals, Legacy Letters and No Legacy Lost, both created to help individuals preserve memories, honor loved ones, and process their grief journeys. A former high school educator, Kera now dedicates her work to grief advocacy and education. And congratulations on breaking through that mold and doing what you love. I love that when people leave careers to follow their passion. That's awesome.
Yeah.
She is also the founder of Griefy for EDU and a professional development program designed to equip secondary educators with the tools and understanding needed to support grieving students and colleagues. Huge, so important. In recognition of her impact, Kera was named the 2025 People's Choice Grief Educator of the Year by Talk Death. Through her writing, teaching, and advocacy, she champions a simple but powerful philosophy. Grief sucks, life doesn't have to. So, Kera, I love you. So glad you're here.
Oh my gosh, I feel honored. And I feel like this is a long time coming. We've been talking about getting this in the books for a while now. So I'm glad that it's finally coming to fruition.
That's for sure. You are just an inspiration. And I love your whole philosophy. Yeah, grief sucks, life doesn't have to, and it's almost like blasphemous sometimes. Like you're saying something a little risky where people could respond and be like, no, my life sucks. I'm never gonna, move past this. I'm always going to be suffering. I'm always going to be down, feeling guilty. There's a whole bunch around it. We'll get into that. But why don't you tell us first a little bit about your story? I know your mother's passing and you were in labor. I mean, like craziness. Tell us about that. And then what made you so passionate about Get Griefy?
Yeah. It's really ironic, actually, that here I am, full circle moment. I'm making grief my entire personality and my brand, my profession. But prior to all of these experiences that I lived, I was like truly, no pun intended, deathly afraid of death and grief. I remember the first time in my adult life when I really came to terms with the fact that at one point we're all going to experience loss, and at one point maybe we're all going to be kind of sitting alone and just left to pick up the pieces. My husband's grandmother took her husband to a surgery during the day, and it was just like a routine thing, and he didn't make it out of the surgery. And I just remember she needed help like planning the funeral and kind of just getting the things in order. And I remember that entire experience. Like I was not necessarily really close to Mike's grandmother, but like just watching her in that experience and live that out terrified me, scared the shit out of me. And I was like, oh my gosh, like one day, 55 years from now, 60 years from now, this could be me. And, I'm going to have like random family members trying to help me pick up the pieces. And it really terrified me. And so, fast forward a couple of years and essentially I was pregnant with my second. I was ready to give birth in about a month, and I ended up going into labor a full month early. And due to just a lot of unexplained circumstances, my husband was not able to be there, but my mom was. And, it was a really interesting time, a pivotal time in our relationship, because my mom and I had always been close, but after I got married and we started having kids, there was a lot of growing pains and a lot of disagreements we were having. And, at the time, she was there for me. And it was really like this cherry on top moment where I felt like things were going to be on the up and up and we had mended our relationship. But what ended up happening after my daughter was born, I was able to finally let my husband into the hospital to be with us. My mom left and she was going to go on a vacation. And I just remember the last thing I said to her as she was walking out of the room was like, go have fun, bring back some souvenirs. And when you come back, you're going to be babysitting. Because at the time I had a toddler and a newborn, right? And, you know, shortly after that, I get a phone call. And in the NICU, while I'm trying to feed my newborn, I find out that my mom had unexpectedly died on her vacation in her hotel room. And so just everything that I had expected out of life, all of the things that I thought were going to happen, completely just imploded in that moment. And, you know, I was really in a dark spot and I struggled with it for a while. And we were talking about this earlier. There is truly no timeline, but I will say that I personally believe that the reason why I was able to get to a place from where I was, a place that was truly just petrified of talking about these types of things, to a person that fully embraces it and is allowing it to transform me into a better person, I believe that's through the power of choices that I made. And, you know, I call it dopamine grieving. Like I am leaning in to the community around me. I'm leaning in and finding resources that make me feel fulfilled. And I'm finding ways to incorporate grief and joy and hold them in, you know, at the same time. I don't have to put one down in order to acknowledge the other. And so, you know, much like curating our outfits for a better mood, I think we can curate activities and choices and people to help our grief. And so that's kind of, you know, where I'm at, what Get Griefy is all about, and a little bit about just how I got to where I am, because it's honestly quite a journey.
Life is just fascinating. You know, I mean, it's joyful, it's harrowing, it's all like you're saying, the both and. There's just so much to experience here. And as you were talking, I was thinking about how like death is the ultimate human experience and intrigue and like event, like what even happens? And then the emotions that get stirred, like nothing. I feel like there's nothing else. The birth of your children, right? Probably stir, not similar, but you know what I mean? Like in terms of powerful or evocative things, events that evoke major emotion in whatever way. But death is just so fascinating to me. And it's the thing that we don't want to talk about. It's the thing that we're trying to avoid, but that is coming for every single one of us. Like when you're saying, yeah, I was thinking maybe 55 years or whatever, you know, that could be me. It's going to be, right? Unless we die first, you know, and usually women outlive men. You know, like that's the reality. And I think when these big moments happen, like when my brother died, that's when that mortality awareness comes in. And it's not just my own mortality, it's the mortality of others. And so sudden and unexpected, like your mom, right? It's traumatic. And then it's like, this can happen at like any moment. And it just makes us really look around and say, what are we going to do with our lives? And I think it's amazing that you're choosing to, you know, make lemonade out of lemons, right? That's
Totally.
The thing that also jumped out was that your relationship with your mom was kind of rocky before, you know, and that's amazing. I mean, that is so great that you guys managed to like make amends. It's like there are no coincidences, like why things happen in life, right? We hear those stories like before people die, they just feel moved to like do things, or things just happen. Circumstances come about where you just say things maybe you always wanted to say. So what was that like for you? Having that, you had just kind of you didn't really have time, right? To like live out a real mother-daughter, peaceful, loving, whatever, connected relationship. Did that bring any difficulty?
You know, it's brought a lot of introspection. I've thought about it quite a bit. And one, I recognize that the weeks leading up to it, I really can't describe it other than just like downloads and things that were happening and ideas that came to my head. And at the time, there was a song that was really popular. It was a country song. I think it's by Cody Johnson. I don't know if you've heard it, like the Till You Can't song.
No, I don't know it.
There's like a lyric in there. It's like, call your mom, just talk away because you don't know how bad you want to till you can't someday. And
oh, man, I just got chills.
it was like on the radio. And I remember that like there was a point in me and my mom's relationship, like a year before she died, where I was like, Mom, if this is going to continue to be a topic of conversation, I don't want to get into like the details of what it is. But like, if it's going to continue to be a topic, I just need to put you on pause. Like we can't, I'm trying to set a boundary. Like we're not talking about this. And she also like wouldn't give in and apologize. And so like, we were just kind of like having this like struggle, this push and pull. And I remember maybe 2 weeks leading up to her death, that song was like an earworm in my head. And I could not stop thinking about that song. And I remember vividly telling my husband, I need to talk to my mom. I'm going to call my mom. And he's like, but, like, and apologize yet. And I'm like, you know what? I don't know what it is. I just have a nudge. I need to call her. And so we had a conversation maybe a couple days prior to when I went into labor. And even that conversation was somewhat like culminating and things were starting to be on the up and up. And then obviously when I went into labor early and my husband wasn't able to be there and we had to call my mom to be there for him, then the dam broke and we were like have those conversations and just so much was just flushed out. And it's just kind of crazy. But ever since then, I feel like I've been really leaning into the things that kind of drop into my mind because I've realized that it hasn't led me astray. And that's kind of how this magazine came to be. It's all been just drop-ins and downloads. And a lot of the ideas I get, like, they're so intuitive. And I'm the type of person that I don't sleep on stuff. Like, if something comes to me almost instantaneously, I will make the time or carve out the time to make it happen, like instantly, right? Like the Get Griefy in Spanish page, that was something that I like came to me in the shower and I was like, okay. And I just like opened my computer. I'm like, let's get this up. Right. And so I guess for me, a big reflection of that experience was just learning to tap in and lean into my intuition and the messages that be. And I don't believe that our situation and what we lived through and, the arguments that we had, I don't believe that was a coincidence. I think one, that was a lesson for me. And two, it was something to remind me that there is a plan. And I know that sometimes grievers hate to hear like everything happens for a reason, but it's not necessarily that. I just think that there's a greater, bigger message out there that we have to like uncover. We have to unbury what's out there for us. And yeah, I really think that our whole conflict is related to so much more. So I don't know. That's kind of my thoughts about it. But
I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. So I've done a lot of meditating, praying, soul searching on the why, right? And it doesn't really matter. But when I tap in, what comes to me is that same exact thing. I don't think that I chose for like my brother to overdose or for terrible things to happen. But I do think, I believe in reincarnation. And I do believe that my soul just wants to grow. It wants to heal. It wants to evolve. My spirit, I want to become more loving, all that stuff. And I think that these things that happen in life are the vehicles or the little messengers, like you're talking about the nudge, right?
Yeah.
Like, and if I don't get, and it's not about really getting it, I don't want to say get it, but if I don't awaken or become aware of the nudges, of the intuitions and follow that, I love that quick action you're talking about on the same way. That's why you're successful. And that's why I'm successful, is because we take action immediately when we get inspired. I believe that's spirit. I believe that spirit and our spirit and God working together to just like give us this thing and then we take action. And I think that when we go through the tough things in life and it just pushes us more and more to take that action and follow the nudge, I personally think spirit's doing it for us from the other side. Because I think a lot of us wake up and have these like, wait, I got to do something purposeful. What's my purpose here? Like we get this awakening when we have these big traumatic moments or losses. Maybe some people get them less. I need like a 2x4 across my face. I mean, like, I don't know. Some people I think are a little bit more aware or whatever. But like, I need these big upheavals to be like, oh shit, wait, like, what am I supposed to do here? And then, so those things that happen, I know people hate everything happens for a reason. I kind of think it does. I kind of think it's like not like my brother was supposed to die, right? Or your mom was supposed to die. Like, that's not it. And I totally agree. It's like this bigger picture that's just kind of leading us. All these different things that happen in our lives are guiding us and leading us in this culmination of something. And that's different for everybody. It doesn't have to be starting a magazine, doesn't have to be writing a book or a podcast or whatever, we're all doing individually with this pain. It could just be like finding peace, forgiving, mending that relationship, finding the career, really finding your true self, I think probably is where it all goes to. And then whichever way you get there is different. Can you describe like what it feels like when you know that the nudge is like, okay, no, I need to jump on that now. I need to jump out of the shower and I need to get that Instagram page up versus like, maybe that's like, something not meant for me. Do you know what that feels like?
I just feel like it's almost so abundantly clear. There's no doubt that it's for me. And I feel like it's something that I'm able to almost like visualize, and the blueprint is kind of already there. So I come from an education background. I was working as a Spanish teacher, and I kind of I've been able to figure all this stuff out. And by no means has it been easy. And of course, I've been utilizing tools and the internet and all that stuff to kind of like teach me what to do. And there's been a lot of trial and error. Like I literally just made a reel earlier. I was reflecting on the fact that the first ever issue of Get Griefy I made, I accidentally published it in like a little mini size. And I love laughing about it because I'm like, that was my first pancake. Like I had no idea what I was doing, right? But when I get these kind of like nudges and intuitions, it's almost like this for sure feeling that even though it's shooting for the moon, it's going to work out.
Yeah, I totally get that. It's just like yes, right?
Yeah, like I remember having a vivid conversation with my husband about it when I was first starting it. And I remember saying like, I don't know, I just feel like, at some point, because a lot of times there's things on the news or on ESPN that they have these really cool, powerful stories about profound trials and tribulations and how sports teams kind of still like overcome it and stuff. And I'm like, oh, wow, I imagine myself one day maybe even like interviewing some of these people that have been involved on these teams and telling their stories in the magazine. And here I am, however many years later, and I'm able to have text messages with an ESPN like correspondent, right? And it's just like, it's just weird that there's things that I have thought about and I've said out loud and it kind of just happens. It gets there eventually, right? And I didn't necessarily have anyone in mind, but the idea just unfolded in a way that I knew would. So
that's that big picture. I feel like that's that. And I love the visualization, the blueprint. Like you just kind of see it. You don't know every single step, how you're going to get there, right? But it's like the bigger chunks, like the milestones. You just know, like I got to do that, and I got to do that, and I have to do that. And it might not all be super conscious. When I get those big ideas, I probably can't sit down immediately and like map the whole thing out. I just know that I got to do this. And I trust also that the next thing is just going to drop in. Okay, this is the next step in order to make this thing happen. And yeah, I felt the same way when I was texting with Lauren, right? You're talking about Lauren Sisler?
Yep.
I was like, oh, this is pretty cool, Yeah, I mean, I just think there's great big things on the horizon for Get Griefy. Thank you for following that nudge, because I really feel like you're tapped into something that is going to become more of a comfortable conversation for people. What do you think about that? About like all this heavy stuff, the emotion, the grief and stuff becoming more, and even spirituality around it, right? Like mediumship and near-death experience and talking to spirit and just the nudges in and of itself is a spiritual idea.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? Do you see that like just kind of becoming more mainstream?
I do. And I think that, for me, there's intentionality about the way that I present the magazine. And I do really want it to come from a place that is relatable and does mirror and mimic the other types of resources that people seek out for completely different topics. I think for the longest time, talking about these things it was almost like covered in bubble wrap, and it was like a soft landing spot. And don't get me wrong, like if that serves somebody, then go for it. Like that is for you. But I like to think of these types of conversations like ice cream. And if you are really craving Rocky Road, the vanilla is not going to cut it. And so you have to have different types of resources out there for whatever it is that people are craving. And, you know, I think that even touches on the blog that I posted today about there's some kinks in our armor here. And there are some holes in the grief space. For better or for worse, that is kind of making people feel a little bit vulnerable because they're like, wait, like I'm supposed to be the person or the expert or, you know, the one that people are supposed to go to. But I think we're quickly learning that because it's not one size fits all and because there's no one way to grieve, that we can't have these like narrow siloed paths for people to follow in their journey. There needs to be multiple ways to grieve and also multiple ways to heal and multiple resources. And so I think that that's kind of what we're trying to encompass is showcasing those and giving people options, because sometimes in grief, you don't even know what you need. And so when you are presented a platter of different things, you're like, oh, okay, I could get down with that, right? And so I think that's the importance of resources that are relatable, because it draws people in instead of where I was at prior to all of this, where I was like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. Like, that sounds scary, right? And if it's approachable and it's bright and colorful and it mirrors the type of person I am, I think that that's how you bring people in and you can mainstream the conversation. So
100%. You're using who you are for guidance, direction on how to present. It's like tapping in. I love that. Tapping into like your unique special gifts, your personality, and then presenting to the world the way that you're supposed to, that only Kera Sanchez can, the only way Amanda McCoy-Flanagan can. Like, we all have these different ways. And I might say the same thing that you say, and somebody might be like, oh, I like the way Kera says, or I like the way Amanda says it. So presenting things in different ways, I think that's huge. Receptivity was like my main, it was kind of like this thing that I just had in my head when I was writing my book. I was thinking about how people are going to receive it. And that's what I suggest to my writing clients is like, yes, you need to say something, but what is it worth saying if nobody can hear it? So you have to not be inauthentic. You just have to find a way to present things to where people can pick it up. If it's that important to you, right? If you really want somebody to pick up that message, then you have to think about how they're also receiving it. I remember having a conversation with a very spiritual friend of mine, and I was talking about it, and she's like, no, you just need to say the things that you need to say. And I was like, I'm going to respectfully disagree with you, because I think that it's less important for me to feel like, well, I just got to say this, you know, and more important about how people are hearing it. Because like I'm saying, like, what's the point? Nobody can understand it and take it and do anything with it. So I love the way that you present it, and having all the different ways of doing it, similar to what I do, my podcast, my book, my coaching, my retreats, my events. I mean, I have kind of like a different flair or feeling to like the different things I do, but it all kind of comes together. And I know you're involved with the military spouses now.
yeah.
Tell us about that magazine and how that, did they overlap?
You know what? I did that as like a palate cleanser because I needed something that was not grief related at all to just also invest in and pour into, because even though Get Griefy is intentionally not as heavy, it still is heavy talking about only grief all of the time. And so I knew that if I was leaving my career, that I had to find a way to incorporate other parts and other facets of my life into where my talents lie. And I feel like I learned so much from going to accidentally printing the magazine in the wrong size to, I feel like now I'm like, okay, I'm moving and grooving. I know what to do. So I just applied that knowledge and copy and pasted it to a completely different demographic. And the Military Spouse magazine is all about female military spouse empowerment, just because my husband was previously enlisted over a decade ago, and I had a really hard time integrating into the lifestyle. I really had difficulties finding work and keeping my career afloat, and I just had such a negative mindset. So I made my lifestyle everyone's problem, and I just bitched about it. And I realized that this time around, if my husband was going back into the military, I can't just bitch, I need to build, right? And
What?
it's the bitch. I needed to, you know, if I wanted friends, I needed to create a space where I could have friends. I found on Get Griefy that you're my friend now. Like I have friends from all over the country, and it's so easy now to have the support system if I want it. I just need to build it. And so that's essentially what I did is I kind of copy and pasted, duplicated, replicated all of my processes from Get Griefy to a military spouse magazine. And that way, all of these spouses that have all of these incredible skill sets that maybe aren't currently getting utilized because of the constant relocations, they have a place to shine and they have a place to display all of the things that they're working on. And so many women now are tapping into entrepreneurship because with each relocation, it's almost impossible to keep up with your career and like your certifications and all that kind of stuff. So it's just another outlet for me. And it's just something I really genuinely enjoy doing. I enjoy connecting with people. I enjoy creating. I love being creative and I love storytelling. I think storytelling can be so healing, but it can also be really impactful and empowering. And if you kind of are able to listen to someone who is like you being successful, it's an expander for you. You're like, oh, well, then I can do that too, right? It's a different side of the spectrum, but in reality, there is some crossover, and there has been crossover with just some of the things that I've been able to be involved with, like going to TAPS the other day, which is the Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors. I was invited for Get Griefy, but then I realized that so many of the people there are military spouses, and so I was like, oh, I can kind of cross-promote this and put this on both of my platforms. So it's interesting. What I once thought was going to be something completely separate. Sometimes there is so much crossover. Yeah. There's definitely some center Venn diagram situation going on, but I don't know.
Totally. I know that you're not looking to talk about grief there, but there's loss, right? Grief comes in all forms. There's definitely loss with that when you're constantly having to move or you're constantly saying goodbye to your spouse, missing them. I feel like loss is just that feeling of missing something, right? So, in recovery, there's a phrase I'm trying to think of. It's something about creating the community that we crave. If you move to like a new place and there's no 12-step meetings, they encourage you to start one. So if you don't have that, you create it. And as my husband says to me all the time, he's like, I can't believe what you've just like created. And I say it's to bring my people to me. That's really, I think, what I'm doing. And because I think as social creatures, as humans, we want to find our tribes. I'm not crazy about the word tribe, but like, we want to find our community, our people that get it. We need to support each other, especially through the tough things. I mean, it's not easy having a military spouse. I mean, like it's got to be really hard. I mean, I don't have that experience, but it's got to be very challenging, especially with little kids. You have 2 little kids and.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just kind of getting back into it because my husband was out for a really long time and decided he wanted to get back in. We have not lived through a deployment yet, but last year he was at training and was constantly on temporary duty, like somewhere else, like across the country. So we were able to go visit him. It wasn't like anything extreme, but I was practically home alone with my kids for like a year, juggling my projects, working. And so it was a challenge. And there's obviously really hard things that come with it, but I'm at the point now where, much like grief, like we have to focus our energy and our intention on the things that are going to bring us joy. And so I can focus on how hard it is, but I can also focus on like, wow, there's so many opportunities that I have from this. And the proximity to DC that I have now, I've been able to go to Capitol Hill already. Like there's just been really cool events I've been invited to. And so I just have to lean into the positive and focus my energy on that. And whether or not people want to call that toxic positivity or not, like, okay, it's fine. But it's working for me. So, why shouldn't it matter?
Exactly. To each their own, whatever works, right? I love that. Every, cloud has a silver lining type of thing, right? Like there is always something for people out there listening that are like, my life sucks. I'm going through it. It's not toxic positivity. It's to end both, right? You can acknowledge, this is hard, and I can still seek happiness, joy, fulfillment, community, people, support, things, the dopamine. I love that. I wrote that down. Dopamine grieving. Why not?
Why
Are we
not?
supposed to sit here and suffer and be miserable? No. I don't think that's what my person on the other side wants for me. I don't think that's what God wants for me. I don't think that's what my higher self wants for me. It's these challenges that sometimes, where the rubber meets the road, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with it?
Yeah, 1,000%. I feel like it's a conversation in the grief space that it's a happening, but it's not actually happening, in the sense that there are people out there that don't like the fact that people can draw attention to the joy that can still exist. It's like, please don't pressure grievers to feel joy. And it's like, I'm not pressuring anyone to do anything. I'm just saying that it's possible, right? That possibility is.
If they're feeling pressured, that's on them.
Yeah.
That's not your doing. Just being an example there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. What are we all supposed to do? I mean, like, if we were all like, blah, blah, I mean, like, what are we going to do? There's got to be some rays of light out there, which is you. So yeah, whoever's saying that.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely a very curious dialogue. There's a lot of judgment, and I feel like there's a lot of just people who are stuck in their ways. And I don't know, for me, this process has really allowed me to be unstuck. And I think that that's okay for me to say that. I don't know.
Yeah, please do. You know, like this show, I actually just submitted for the Women Who Podcast Award. And I was talking on the Google form. I was saying how this show, I try to get myself to feel courageous enough and my guests build a safe space for people to say things that are risky. That you might get backlash on. You might get some hate mail, right? Like, or negative comment. I mean, I took this marketing course before I published my book, and they said you should expect at least 5 to 10% of your comments to be negative, you know? And that's okay too, because we're inviting the whole conversation, right? If I just want all positivity and you to support me and not to challenge me at all, I'm playing it too safe. I don't think I'm saying anything truly impactful or important if it pleases everybody. It just doesn't.
I just went through that epiphany because that was the original goal and foundation of Get Griefy, is to say the bold things and to really infuse grief with zest and joy. And it's okay to say the things that maybe would trigger other people, but somewhere along the way, I felt this need to like bend the knee to the grief powers that be, and like kind of tone it down a bit. And I was like, oh, you know, I got so lost in trying to keep up with everyone else's melody that I forgot what I'm trying to build and what I'm trying to create. And I can't let that outside noise and what other people say about, you know, the whole toxic positivity thing. I can't let that get into my brain, because I don't think that that's what we're doing. And two, it needs to be authentic to what Get Griefy is. And it's not going to be successful and it's not going to grow unless we stay in our lane. I feel like we have like a very niche spot in the grief sphere. And that is that, yeah, grief sucks, but life doesn't have to. And like that, we have to stick to that. We really do. And so as much as sometimes you feel the heat or you feel the criticism or you feel people kind of like looking at you sideways, like you just have to put your blinders on and just focus on what it is that you're trying to do. And
focus on the mission. You just got to keep the mission strong. And sometimes we need those affirmations. That's why we have community. We support each other through this. Yeah. You know, you use the word trigger. And there's so many people who don't want to be triggered. And it's like, oh, protect your energy so nobody makes you upset. Like, triggers are really good. You know, I trigger people. I actually lose friendships, I believe. I've had like a bunch of women kind of just like good friends since I moved to Colorado, and people just kind of like leave, like poof, like vanish. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then I realized I think I trigger people like emotionally. I think I force them to kind of just a mirror, right? I'm not saying anything when I say force. I'm saying energetically. I'm not saying like I say like, oh, you need to do. No, I think just by the nature of how I live, it makes other people then look at themselves and say, wow, like she's talking about this. So things that I say, I think get into people's heads. And then as human beings, we just kind of look at ourselves, think about how that relates to ourselves. And I think it makes some people uncomfortable because I think it triggers some kind of soul awareness or next level or something happens for people. And I think that's probably what's going on with the naysayers of whatever you want to get grief in general, what your posts or whatever you're putting out there. It's making them feel something they don't want to feel. But ultimately, it's good for them. Yeah. They're going to circle back around. That's staying right here. That's staying right. Going to circle back around and be like, oh my gosh, now I get what she was saying. Like they're just not ready. They're just not ready. Yeah. That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a time and a place for everything. And to be honest, like if I tried to pick up what it is that I make, a few months after my mom died, I don't know if I would have been ready for it either. And I think that is a whole level of the grief conversation too that we are not necessarily having, is so much of our focus and energy is on supporting the people like right after somebody dies, like that acute phase. But what happens a few years out when people aren't like consumed by the grief anymore, but they just feel off, or they just feel just different and confused about what's supposed to come next? There's like another layer of care there that we could be exploring, and it's not always explored. So I think that like that is something also that a lot of us have so many talents that would be able to help those people who feel lost and want to know what their next chapter entails. And I think that's the beauty of these conversations, is we're all figuring it out together, right? So
yes, thank you for saying that, because I get a lot of people that send people that are in acute grief to me as a grief coach. I changed my title to Loss and Empowerment for exactly what you're saying, because well, first of all, loss, feelings of grief, loss of, there's just so many different ways. It's not just death, but also I'm interested in helping the people. That's why I align with you. That's why I'm like, yes, like I'm all in with Get Griefy, because it is that moment of a couple of years out where you're like, okay, like now there's some kind of push or that nudge again, that thing of like, there's more, right? So how do we help people through that? Lately, I've been hearing the word shepherd. I don't know why, I'm not religious, but like, I feel like we're like shepherding people into the next phase of their lives. I want to say after the loss. I mean, after grief, that's also taboo, right? We don't say like that it ever ends, but now what? Next chapter. You can't ignore that thing that's inside that's like revving you, pushing you. There's something. And the more you try and repress it due to fear or your own limiting self-beliefs or guilt of like, I should just be wallowing for the rest of my life, you're just abandoning yourself. You're abandoning that spirit, what we were saying before, finding your true self in whatever way that shows up. Just got to honor whatever's coming up in the moment. And you might feel differently a year or two from now. You might take a different direction. Who knows, right? It's like you're saying before, honoring who you are and putting that out. That's what this is all about. Your creative spirit.
Yeah. And just, like being where our feet are right now. And if right now this is where I feel, it doesn't serve me to go 5 steps back to accommodate who I was. Right. And so I think that is a huge lesson for people too, when it comes to grief. And that's something that we also need to just acknowledge in the grief space when we're talking online about grief, is we have to remember that so many people are in different phases and on different steps of the journey. And so what might be someone's truth right now, that could have been your past, or it could be your future. And like who are we to judge? Like, why are we placing these judgments? I don't know. I just kind of feel like, okay, like if it doesn't resonate with you, then just keep scrolling. No big deal. I don't know.
I think it might have to do with people doubting themselves or feeling like, am I doing it wrong? Right? If somebody is saying this and that's not how I've been viewing it, I'm going to try and tear them down to make myself feel right. I think everything always goes back to ego, right? That's a whole other conversation. But like, it's like, it could be a 9-hour conversation, but it's like, we're all trying to, in some way, validate ourselves. So if somebody is saying something that isn't aligning or how I'm living, what I'm saying, what I'm speaking, I'm going to find a way to make it wrong. So thank you for saying that. Who are we to judge each other? Everybody's journey is different. And it's like puzzle pieces. We need them all. We need all different color puzzle pieces. We need all different feelings, emotions, personalities. We need all the things together to make the symbiotic relationship between any grief experience or just a human experience. We need all the different ways. Just be open, right? Just be open. And if it doesn't, like you're saying, resonate at the time, okay, just keep moving. Just keep going.
Yeah.
Somebody will hear something that will resonate.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh, my little sidekicks came up here. They want a piece of bread.
Little ducklings. You're feeding the duck.
Yes. All right, be gone, little ducks.
All right, Kara. So, thank you so much. I mean, you said this was great. Why don't you? Do you have any last bit of like anything, inspiration, any bit of wisdom, any nugget? I mean, you have a million in there. So, what's dropping in right now that you want to leave us with, if anything?
I want to say that what it is that we're building at Get Griefy is very much a communal effort. And although, yes, I'm the person that like weaves it together, I rely on the insights of others to make sure that this publication is possible. And so for anyone that is curious about getting involved or learning more, I totally recommend that they come to some of our open houses that we have. Those conversations are pretty powerful. I know, you've been a feature on one of our open houses before, but it just allows the people who are involved in the magazine, who are part of our collective, to be able to share a little bit about their journey and how they have decided to channel their pain into purpose. And I think it gives people a really nice variety and diversity of thought, in the sense that, not everyone has to start a podcast. Not everyone has to start a magazine. There's just so many ways to honor your grief in a way that feels purpose-driven. So I feel like just having those conversations is super important and super crucial for people who are curious about that. And so, yeah, I encourage people to not be shy. And if they want to get involved, like, we're here. So, yeah.
Perfect segue. Tell everybody where to find you, follow you, all the good stuff.
We are at Get Griefy Magazine on Instagram. We do have a Facebook page, but I think if you just search Get Griefy Magazine, it'll pop up. We are also on LinkedIn, and our website is getgriefy.com or getgriefymagazine.com. Both work. And we have all of our 8 issues, 9 coming up, are available on the website. We put them up digitally for free. And if anyone is curious about print issues, we just do print on demand to make life nice and easy. So yeah, there's so many ways to get involved. We also have a digital side as well, which, we're again, learning as we go. And I think the issues moving forward are going to be more niche down and thematic. And the digital content is just for stuff that's coming up. Let's talk about it. Let's get it out in the world in real time. We kind of have 2 ways of being able to share the information, but yeah, we're building. So I'm excited.
Yeah. And go on the website and learn about the Small Business Collective, because I've made great connections, great friends. It's been a lot of opportunity for cross marketing, to get your name out there, to get your voice out there, to get your message out there, to find people to serve, right? That's ultimately what we're doing here. We are looking for our people, and Get Griefy is where they're at. So check out that Small Business Collective, because it's real. I mean, it's very inexpensive. And I'm not big on like networking groups, and it doesn't feel like that. I'm in 2. My other one, they call a connection company, and Get Griefy feels the same way. Just like connections and just support. It's not just about like, oh, let's do a podcast together. Let's do this. It's like we throw things up on the chat, like, what, looking for this or looking for that, and we show up. So it's really a great resource if you're looking for that community.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that that's something, as we move forward, and I know we talked too about like my kids going to school, I really want to be able to focus a little bit more on making sure that community is totally supported. So more to come on that. We'll see. But yeah, I agree. I think that's such a crucial part of what it is that we're building, is having a space for people that want to work on this stuff together. And yeah, I'm just grateful that people want to join. So
Yeah, it just feels like this like ever expanding circle of people who are just good and authentic and
a
have
circle of trust.
yes, circle of trust. The circle of trust. I love it. Amazing. All right.
Oh, gosh.
Kara, you're awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really
Oh my
appreciate you being
I'm
here.
so glad that we were able to do this. So.
Yes. All right. I will talk to you soon, my friend.
Okay.
Bye. Bye.